Canada has announced a number of moves against Tesla, against Elon himself, against companies owned by Elon Musk, and this has drawn some attention. I made a video about it 2 weeks ago, and a lot of comments had a lot of varied opinions, so I figured I would draw in an actual Canadian before the tariffs hit. I just got in under the wire, I think, because I do not see an import tax on this video for which I must pay. But then again, 25% of nothing, still nothing. I got Mark from the Tesla Life joining me. Certified Canadian, verified. He's got the paperwork and everything.
Yep.
And we're going to find out what's going on. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Asa. So Mark, you saw this video that I made. What were your thoughts? What were your impressions? And then I understand you went through the comments. We'll get to that second, but let's start with the meat and potatoes.
Brian, I felt that the video 2 weeks ago, which I hope you'll put a link for people who haven't seen it. I think you made some even-handed comments on the situation that was going on. We had a number of things that I, as a Canadian, had a problem with Elon and, of course, Donald Trump's behavior when it came to addressing Canada and Canadians. Recently, well, as you mentioned in your video, Elon had mentioned in an X tweet that Canada was not a country. It was not relevant. Trump, of course, turned around and has been referring to us as the 51st state. He's been referring to the prime minister as a governor. That has changed in the last couple of days. But those two comments, one from Elon, one from Trump, certainly struck home here in Canada. Many people watching this information come across the news feeds, we were really surprised. I was surprised about the Elon comment, and then I was less surprised about the Trump comment because, of course, I watched from the outside, seeing the first term and how he reacted then as well. So I'm not as surprised there. But for Elon to indicate that Canada is not a country, I think is a mistake on his behalf. In your video of 2 weeks ago, Brian, you indicated about the tweet where Elon had posted something about a comment that someone else made about eliminating Starlink from Canada. And instead of saying nothing or saying this is a business or we are neutral, what happened is he reposted it to all his followers. And then, of course, that spurred many more comments on that subject. So again, another shot in the foot as far as I could see.
On the first part, there was a big reaction to, famously, at hockey games in the US and Canada, both national anthems are played because the teams are represented, no matter which city you're in, on the US or Canadian side, there are players from the US and Canada. Hockey is a Canadian sport. Canadians are, I don't know if you've heard, but pretty good at hockey. It makes sense. When I was a teenager, I remember them playing both national anthems, and the US anthem would get recently booed. And this upset a lot of Americans, to which I thought, well, we just threatened to conquer their nation. If Canada had said we're going to annex the US, I think their anthem might get booed in our stadiums. And I'm not sure their anthem isn't getting booed in our stadiums. So I don't know. I really don't get the reaction to the pushback. The pushback I understand. Canada is a sovereign nation. We don't invade our friends. That's like the one rule. And I'd heard that. I've seen people repeating the misunderstanding that, well, do you know how much fentanyl was seized at the Canadian border coming into the US? And the answer is yes, less than 1% of it, almost none.
Yeah.
If that's the problem, how would seizing Canada and opening the border fix it? Then all of it would get through. So I don't get it.
I think I understand the fentanyl thing is that, of course, approximately 8 years ago, Donald Trump opened up the NAFTA agreement, which was the agreement between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, and he renegotiated it. He felt it was horrible at that time, and then he renegotiated it with the sitting prime minister and president of Mexico, and he indicated that now this was the best deal for America ever. And then just recently, we've been hearing in the news media that that deal that I don't know who signed it, Donald Trump did, is the worst deal possibly that America has ever had in trade relations. So the only way that he could reopen negotiations early on that deal that he put together 8 years ago was for national security reasons. And that is where the fentanyl comes in. He indicates that fentanyl is flowing into the country, killing Americans. That's national security. Therefore, the agreement can be breached and stopped immediately. That's the reason he used fentanyl in that context.
Wow, that's pretty bonkers. So in the comments, did you see, and guys, you're welcome to leave comments on this one, keep them sane and civil if you're capable, and if you're not capable, remember, it's like my mother always said, if you can't say something nice, say something clever but devastating. And if you're just going to type swastikars, I'm just going to type swastika comment. So let's keep it productive. In the comments, there were people, I saw a number of people say, well, why are they attacking Tesla? Tesla isn't Elon. And why would they attack Elon? Elon didn't say to put tariffs on.
He didn't do the tariffs particularly, but of course, he and his newly found government office that's not official have really tore into the fabric of American government, and that has adversely affected many nations, including Canada, based on the results that he's pushing through, the slashing off offices, the changing of people's jobs, the laying off of people certainly affects Americans in that way, but it also affects the United States' international partners, which Canada is one.
When it comes to building a factory, to build cars, certainly, but even parts, it takes time to do it. And I understand the desire to onshore as many jobs, as much of the supply chain as possible. If the pandemic taught us one thing, and I'm not convinced it did, it's that our supply chain is fragile. And it takes time to build factories.
Yeah.
I had a number of people say, Brian, you don't get it. Tesla can build a factory in a year. And I said, no. China can build a factory in a year. Whether it's Tesla or BYD or someone else, China can build a factory in a year. The same factory in Austin or Berlin took 2 years. And even then, they've still never ramped to the kind of numbers that China's doing. So if you wish to build something very quickly, you can get it done, but it's going to cost you. And that price then gets padded into the cost of the car or the cost of the parts, which becomes the car. And if you really want to onshore jobs, there are carrots you can offer before sticks. These sticks, I am concerned, will devastate a lot of companies, and it will certainly put a real wrench in the works for electrification. We talked about it on a show maybe yesterday, or anyway, this week we've already recorded it, where we're talking about GM has had a great first quarter. That ends. For electrification, that ends. Ford, same thing. They had a great first quarter. We now know most of the EVs they sold were built also in Mexico. And then it's great for Tesla. Guys, we can win without throwing a stick into the spokes of our rivals. We don't need to Nancy Kerrigan this whole thing. We can do it fair and square. Any more thoughts that you wanted to share on that? Because I know you just looked through the comments today.
I noticed a lot of Canadians commenting on your video as well. There was whether or not they're avid viewers or the topic drew them in. But certainly there was a number of great points made about how, of course, Canada being a partner with the U.S. now for forever, since the War of 1812.
Since that time you guys burned down the White House.
Well, we don't want to talk about that. But but certainly having the world's longest undefended border, being able to cooperate in NAFTA previous to these other two agreements that were made, having the ability that the supply chain runs through all three countries and allows everyone to profit somewhat in the building of automobiles and other trades. Canada being the ability to provide the U.S. with raw materials, lumber, minerals, oil. These things have been successful in helping North America stay above the grade in the world. And unfortunately, trying to onshore all manufacturing, all mineral collection under one country, I feel is kind of short-sighted. It's something that you as a business owner, someone in one of the big three auto manufacturers, for example, they're going to look at, hold on, it's going to cost us about $2 to $4 billion to build a brand new factory. It's going to take us 2+ years to put it together. And we're going to take a flyer on this, that this experiment goes well. We'll start to build this plant. We'll sink this money into it. And then if an administration changes or if the headwind changes for whatever reason, we're out that money and we're out with a stranded asset that's going to cost us dearly when it comes to company profitability.
The trick with this is that it doesn't need to be a shift in the administration. This is the administration that made the current deal that's being unwound. So even if you say this is the policy, these are the leaders forever, their whims can be a bit whimsical. And if you look at what Canada produces, there are things Canada produces that the US does not. Canada has a ton of phosphate. Canada has exceptional graphite. These are things that we need for batteries. The US only has one operational lithium mine. Our second one just got marked for fast tracking, but that's not enough. And
I mentioned oil, but there's also a surplus of electricity that's imported into the U.S. for a number of the border states that border with Canada.
8 just from Ontario. And if you look at, well, one person said, well, Canada's done so much harm to us. Have you seen how large our trade deficit is? And I said, that's not Canada doing harm. That's people selling things and people buying things. We chose to buy them. We didn't have them here. So, I mean, that's not, if you are upset about the imbalance, export stuff. Just thinking out loud here, but we don't make stuff. We stopped making stuff. There was a guy on Penny2X on X said, this is great. America's going to start making shit. To which I'm thinking, yes, that's exactly what we're going to make. It's going to be expensive and it's going to be shit. And that's why we stopped making it, was because the imported stuff was not only cheaper, but better. Great. We're going to have, well, Mark, it's going to be cheaper if we build it locally.
Well, maybe it is cheaper in the real long run, but in the short run, it's going to be more expensive and it's going to be harder to source.
It's going to be more expensive. And we know that because you wouldn't need the tariffs otherwise. It would already be here. We don't import many apples because apples are large and bulky and have a short shelf life. So they're all grown domestically. But when it comes to other things, most things can be made somewhere else cheaper. And it's like, well, no, it will be cheaper. That's why some people have already announced that they're moving a factory to the US. Right. It's cheaper than the cost of the import, the time of the import, plus the import tariff. That doesn't mean it's cheaper. It's still more expensive. This is still inflationary.
Well, the tariff is a stick to force companies into setting up shop in the U.S. because, as you mentioned, you apply the cost of the factory plus the tariff, compare them, and it's, in some cases, it is cheaper to build a factory. Now, as you mentioned, also the whim of the current administration. That is a huge wild card for companies to invest $1 to $4 billion on a brand new factory when it comes to automobiles. That is something that many people are wondering, can we even take this flyer? Because we're not sure what winds will change people's minds in the administration, and we don't want to be stuck with a stranded asset.
The original plan was this would only apply to, it doesn't matter who owns it as long as the factory's in the US. And then China said, okay, so we should build factories in the US. And the administration said, not you, which means, are we going to nationalize your assets? Are we going to impose a foreign owned but domestic made tariff on top of that? I don't know. There's a big buy Canadian movement in Canada. We see it on social media, but social media amplifies everything. Is that a real movement? Do you see evidence of it in your stores?
Absolutely, it's happened. It has united Canadians in a manner that I have never seen in my life. We've we of course buy lots of American products. There are lots of American products in our stores, but now they are being avoided at all costs. I am seeing reports daily on Canadian television about how Canadians are changing their travel plans, that they're canceling vacation plans in the US, that they're eliminating their rental that snowbirds attend in certain sunny states. There's this has really these comments by Donald Trump and recently by Elon Musk have certainly made Canadians. It's hit a sensitive part in us all, and a lot of us are now looking at how we do business and if it makes more sense that we should be buying Canadian first, and if we can't get it, then possibly the world or America after that. But it's something that has definitely changed here in Canada.
Is there a sentimental shift against Tesla and or Elon? Is the sentiment change? Is there a sentiment that change that you've observed?
I've observed a change in Tesla. Now, of course, like you said, social media does blow things out of proportion, but I'm also seeing it when it comes to news reports. I'm seeing it on the street. I've never had someone give me the thumbs down and booed me when I drove by their as they were walking on the sidewalk. And I was shocked. I was taken back. That's never happened to me, but it happened last week, and I was like, okay, something has changed. Here I am in this small Ontario town, and somebody has taken it upon themselves to give me thumbs down and boo that I'm driving a Tesla down the street in this small rural community.
Just to make sure, in case, because this could be confusion, was it a ghost? Because they just say that it has nothing to do with you. No, the only thumbs down I've gotten in the car was when I was in Muskegon and I drove past you, and you were like, "No, absolutely not." And that's it. But that's in a Model Y. Is it fair? Is it fair for the Canadian government to target Elon's companies directly over the actions that the Trump administration is taking?
I think this was a reaction based on Elon's comments, and of course, with Elon's connection with the current administration, there is this seamless bind that everyone can see from the outside. They see it happening, and I think that whether it's fair or not, I really can't say. In some cases, it is, and in other cases, it's not. So I think there's a little bit of a gray area there, but I think that a number of people have come down on the side that Elon is part of the administration, and anything they can do to hurt Elon is fair game.
If you look at some of the import duties placed by Canada on bourbon, you'll notice that it very precisely targets Mitch McConnell's state. And that's not an accident. They did that to apply pressure on one person who they felt had outsized power to influence things for the better. And we're seeing that the Canadian government is being careful with who they target. And Elon and Trump are absolutely besties. And if anyone has Trump's ear, it would be, I would assume, Elon. But maybe he doesn't. I don't know. This whole thing is very weird to me. Any closing thought before we beg for comments? That's the impact we have, you guys. It's powerful. In the comments, I would ask, what are your thoughts on all of this? Is this unreasonable? This is, by the way, one of the reasons that typically in politics, you do not engage in business and politics at the same time, at least not in ways like this.
Not
there are
yeah.
members of Congress who own, a bunch of Subway franchises, but they're not out there making legislation to make Jimmy John's illegal. So it's a little different. Any last things that I didn't get to?
I would certainly hope that our two countries would have I guess, pause to think about this, and cooler heads would prevail. We would certainly like to get back to the way things were or close to those ways. Certainly, we can have a discussion about trade, but as it's been handled, I'm hoping that people will step back, make some different, sane solutions, table them, and we can agree upon them. But and I hope that happens real soon.
I would like to see all of that. Guys, in the comments, what do we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it. Leave it. I do ask for 25% more comment from Canadian viewers. It's just, it's in my US heritage. What am I going to do? And, uh, and if you're in Greenland, well, I mean, you have to leave a comment. It's
Oh yeah,
mandatory.
yeah.
Or Panama. So guys, yeah, everybody else, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I do have bonus footage coming out most days on Patreon and X and YouTube for channel members. You can find that information in the description below. But in the meantime, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you on Mark's channel, The Tesla Life, where they have a wonderful podcast every Wednesday at, who knows, 4 p.m. Pacific. Oh my gosh, you got to get going.
I gotta get going.
So, yeah, and we'll leave it there.